Glad to know you're still with us. We're still discussing workplace safety, and Darlington Achua and Funke Sunday are still here. They're both health and safety professionals talking to us about how to keep the workplace safe. So Funke, just before the break, you were talking about the role of the employers in keeping the workplace safe.
Yes, very true. So I was saying that the issue on having a positive occupational health and safety culture at the workplace is actually everybody's business. Meaning that the management has their own role to play as well as the workers. So I'll start with
But you said it has to start from the top, so it means it has to start from the management.
A lot of commitment from the management, that's what I said. So I'm going to start with some of the role expectations of management to ensure that there is a positive health and safety culture. The first is that it is the employer's responsibility or top management to establish an occupational health and safety policy statement. That is what is going to convey the intention of the management as to their stand when it comes to health and safety. It is also the employer's responsibility to conduct risk assessment, identify hazards and evaluate it to determine which risk is medium, high or low.
How do they know that?
Yes, there are techniques. No, what I'm saying is that it is their responsibility to ensure that is in place. They do not necessarily have to be the ones that will carry it out.
All right.
So it is also their responsibility
engage people to
they can engage consultants. They can train their own people so that they can carry out that. It is also the employer's responsibility to ensure that a safe working place is established for the workers. It is the employer's responsibility to ensure that people are given adequate training as it relates with occupational health and safety at no additional cost. It is also the employer's responsibility to ensure that the working tools, equipment, and what have you are safe for use. They are fit and safe for use. It is also the employer's responsibility to provide necessary personal protective equipment to the workers at no additional cost to the workers. It is also the employer's responsibility to put in place emergency preparedness and response plan or procedure and ensure that the workforce are aware of this plan in place. It is also the employer's responsibility to ensure that issue around welfare is taken care of. Things like portable water in the workplace, access to sanitary convenience, and other welfare items. So I think I'll just stop it. But also on the part of the employee, they have their own part to play.
Yeah, we'll talk about the part of the employee. But before we talk about that, you talked about emergency response preparedness. I'd like us to focus more on that. Then Darlington will talk to us about the role of the employee.
Okay. So on emergency preparedness and response plan, this is basically a process put in place to identify all possible emergencies that can happen at the workplace. Not just identifying it, but the action to take in the event of such emergencies. For example, not just the action, training people on what to do in the event of such emergency situation, testing the effectiveness of the plan. All of these are the employer's responsibility. So you can have emergency situations like fire incidents. In fact, it can even cover things like security. Depending on the location of the workplace, you may be considering things like flood, building collapse, etc., bomb threat, all of those things.
So you conduct like a drill to simulate.
Yes. So once you put up the procedure that, if there's fire, if the first person to locate the fire, this is what you should do. Perhaps you raise an alarm, or if you have a manual call point, you can press that. That will trigger the alarm system, and then everybody gets to know. If that is not in place, you can shout on top of your voice, like say fire, 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 and everybody comes. So it depends on what you have determined as an organization as a means of raising awareness on that emergency. In fact, sometimes it can be whistle. It can be a manual alarm that you have in place. Once you wind, the sound goes off. Yes, and then you say, everybody walk briskly to the muster point. If there's an emergency, it is not expected that people will run ideally the workplace should have like a muster point, a place where people will gather in the event of an emergency. And usually it is advisable that the muster point be away from high risk area and very close to the exit.
You know, all of these things, they are sounding very interesting, but we know that it's a very minute percentage of Nigerian organizations apply or comply with all of these. So let's talk about the role of employees in keeping the workplace safe.
Okay, one of the basic responsibilities of employees is that they have to cooperate with the management in whatever the management has provided for their safety. It doesn't make any sense that companies will provide, let's assume they have provided the fire extinguishers and workers will misuse it or use it for something that is not intended for that purpose. So they have to cooperate with the management. If the management have provided the welfare for them, let's say the water, the drinking water, the soaps, they have to, if they have provided also PPEs, it is also required of employees for them to make use of the PPEs when they are supposed to and not misuse it. You don't need to find workers when they come to work. If they are supposed to put on their hard hat, they just come to work and tell you, oh, I forgot mine at home, or they come to work with flip-flops and tell you that something. So they have to cooperate with them. It's also their responsibility to also report any unsafe acts, any unsafe conditions within their workplace. A worker who is going and said, oh, there is a switch that is bad, report to management. My switch is bad, my cables are bad, so everything is bad, so that the management can fix it. Any unsafe condition, any unsafe act. There are workers who they are used to unsafe acts. They just want to take shortcuts. So it's more like if you see something, say something. So workers should be able to, they should be encouraged to say whatever thing that they have seen that is not safe to them or safe to their colleagues or safe to the environment, so that management can also put it in place and make the workplace a safer place for everybody to work and go home safely too. So these are basic responsibilities for the workers that they should do.
But apparently they have to know all of this unsafe acts.
Exactly.
And there has to be a reporting system.
Exactly. So they should know also who to report to. In the case of I found something that is not right, who should we report to? There should be a reporting structure in place, and whoever they are reporting, and training will take care of that, and whoever they are reporting to should be somebody that is also safety inclined, that will know what to do so that to address that situation at that point in time. And then when they have reported these things, there should be also a safety report for that organization showing the statistics for between this period and this period. We have this near miss, we had these unsafe conditions, and what did we do to address those conditions too? Those should also be documented for future people, because we need to learn from them. It doesn't make sense that we have had this incident, we've had these unsafe conditions, though it is either we addressed them or we did not address them because nobody cared, and then it happens again, and then there's an accident, somebody is injured and taken to the hospital, and we begin to say, where did this happen from, where did this come from? So these are things that should be put in place, the workplace too. And most of them also is also part of the roles of the employees, so that the management can also come halfway and meet them.
It has to be a collaborative
Exactly.
I'm talking about, trainings and collaborative efforts. You talked about, occupational health hazards as well. Where's the place of first aid in all of this? And I'm saying first aid not traditionally or the conventional notion of just a small box with, basic items like cotton wool, spirit and rest of them, but, something more than that, wherein if there's an emergency, probably a staff collapses or what have you, before the ambulance comes in, you have the employees, carry out maybe CPR, a bit of first aid measures before the ambulance comes to stabilize, the patient to the hospital. So for the health hazards now, where's the place of provision of first aid and the training that is needed for employees to have at least basic first aid techniques?
Okay, so for first aid, like you mentioned, is actually part of the plan that you have to handle your emergency situations. Remember the other time I said it's part of the employer's responsibility to ensure that people are trained on basic emergencies. So that includes fire safety as well as first aid training. So it is good that every workplace have somebody that is trained on basic first aid. The reason is if there's an emergency, like you mentioned, medical emergency, usually for first aid, the first 4 minutes that a casualty goes through, if there's an emergency, the first 4 minutes is very critical to that person. So that training will have addressed what the person should do within that first 4 minutes before you can now get secondary help, maybe from the health service providers.
Okay.
So if, for instance, the management or the employers of a certain organization do not put all of these measures in place, what's the role of the employee? Can the employee sue them? What actions should the employee take?
Okay. Can I come in?
Yeah, let him come in.
Okay. If it is now left on the workers to raise these concerns to the management for certain things that are not provided in the workplace, because they have to report these things. You don't report to work in an environment where that it's not safe for you to work, and so it is a responsibility that on the employees, that if a workplace is not safe for you, if a work procedure is if a process is not safe for you to work, then you cannot do your work, and they cannot be forced to continue with that work. It's a legal requirement.
So who do they report to? Because you are saying they should report.
Exactly. First, they have to report to the management and raise these concerns. And the management, we have regulatory bodies. We have regulatory bodies that covers this. We have the Ministry of Labour, and from time to time they come for a workplace inspection.
And I understand Lagos State also has the
Lagos State Safety Commission too.
Yeah,
so these are regulatory bodies that the workers too could also give this information that my workplace is not safe. These are the things we are doing. I know that there are bottlenecks here and there, because in certain climes where intimidation, we could have workplace bullying. Intimidation,
and you know there are no jobs out there according to the general motion, so you want to protect your job.
Exactly. But then we have also the Whistleblower Act, where people can also put out some information.
How
so that this
is that? Do you protect
the
whistleblower?
To some extent.
Do you provide an alternative job for the whistleblower? Anyways, let's not delve into that.
Yes.
What you said. This issue on report is actually a legal requirement.
Exactly.
We have some laws, occupational health and safety related laws, that mandates that the employer should have all of this. One of them is the Factories Act of 2004. We also have the National OSH Policy 2020.
Occupational safety and health policy.
Yes, for 2020. So it is a legal requirement, actually.
Okay. In instances where, all of these are provided, but for whatever reason, as you've said, sometimes you can have all of the actions and structure in place, and, hazards still happen. And probably during the course of the hazard, an employee now, suffers, a bit of not just injury, probably something permanent, probably, a loss of a limb or what have you, during the course of work. The place of, suing the employer, taking them to court, pushing for, some sort of demands and compensation, is that suitable even when the employer has fulfilled, in quotes, his own part in terms of providing all of these safety measures?
Yes, very true. So there are reasons for establishing occupational health and safety.
Okay.
One of them is moral reason. You can have financial, and then you can also have what's the other one now? The legal reason.
Okay.
You understand? Bearing this in mind, yes, it's a legal requirement that when a worker suffers injury at the workplace, the person be taken care of. And we have Employee Compensation Act for Nigeria that covers that. So if there's maybe it's a major loss of a body part or death, so the Employee Compensation Act covers for that. Yes, the employer should be responsible.
Despite providing all of the safety measures.
Despite providing all the measures.
Yes. The moral reason said it is unethical for me to come to the workplace and get injured.
Even if all the measures are
if all the measures. And sometimes some of these measures, yes, they can fail, like I've said. But if there's a failure in the controls that have been put in place, it should still be that the impact will still be minimal.
Okay.
So that's the focus: prevention, minimal impact. But where that fails, then the employer is responsible, is liable. He should compensate the worker for that.
Okay.
That's why I want to come in there, and because even if the legal let's assume that it's the fault of the worker when everything has been provided, and still the worker goes and does the wrong thing, does not follow the standard operating procedure for certain things he's supposed to do, and then gets injured. Management is supposed to look out. So that's why we have monitoring. They have to monitor their workplace, and they also have to enforce whatever control measures they have put in place, because they also have there is a moral ground there. So if they have the moral obligation that even if it is not your fault, but now you've been injured in my workplace, there's a moral ground that I still have to do something. So in order for you not to now get into that tight corner where, like, okay, I have a moral obligation that so far you are my premises and you've been injured, I have to do something, then they have to look out for workers who will not comply, who are habitual violators.
So there should be, are you saying that there should be someone who should be monitoring? Because of course you can't have the CEO going around monitoring how people are complying with the safety processes.
Exactly. There should be a system first, and then an individual whose responsibility should be to monitor the health and safety management system in that organization to be sure that it's effective and workers are also following what has been laid down as control measures and safety policies that are in that organization. There should be somebody to monitor the effectiveness of that, so that we do not go into the process where there's a moral obligation or legal obligation for the companies to now be forced to do what they do not intend, what they did not budget for, especially when they have provided everything that they need to provide for health and safety within that organization.
Okay,
yeah, sure.
Let's talk about PPEs, personal protective equipment. I know that different PPEs apply to different jobs. For instance, this media job, broadcasting, we might not need so much of PPEs, but I know that there are still PPEs applicable to different jobs.
Yes, there are different PPEs for different categories of job.
Okay.
And how do you know which PPE is suitable for which job? Risk assessment. And remember, I said it's the employer's responsibility to ensure that that is in place. So risk assessment will help you to determine, oh, this type of job is in construction. What type of head cover do we need? Or this job is electrical related. What type of job? This job will involve inhalation of fumes, remember, and even the fumes, they vary, the different chemicals vary, and so the type of nose cover too vary. So it's risk assessment that helps to determine this. Then the workers too have their input in this. Sometimes it's possible that the employer provides the PPE, but if you don't consult the workers before you do that, you can still end up having issues.
How do you mean?
It may not be their size?
Yes, not that it's not their size, it may cause discomfort. Because another rule is that the PPE you are providing should not be the one that will become another source of hazard or risk. So you must consult them to know, test some of these PPEs to know which one is appropriate for them, get feedback from them, even train them on the use and proper storage or handling of this PPE.
So let's talk about a media house. What are the PPEs you need for a media house?
Okay, so for a media house, a number of PPE that we need, basically. Proper, okay, no, this I will not say is a PPE, proper clothing.
Okay.
Although you don't need,
it's still PPE.
yeah, assessing the kind of environment, so you need to be, not so that you won't be exposed to too much cold or too much heat. So you need to watch that as well, basically.
Yes, and necessarily for organizations like this, there may not really be a specific PPE because of the nature of your job. But then for environment like this, we concentrate more on the facility.
Okay.
The facility. Where we are now, where is the exit routes? How about where is the exit routes? How the electricals, the fittings, the wirings, are they okay? Are they in good conditions or whatever? So the facility, we consider more of the facilities more, because most of the jobs we do here, it's more on the machines, operations, electrical, and so that is where the risk assessment will be more on, to make this environment safe.
So let's take it on a global scale. Statistics shows that over 2.7 million people die annually due to work-related hazards and diseases. Do you think that Nigeria as a whole is now more safety conscious? Because I know that a lot of organizations do not really understand the implication or the seriousness of workplace safety.
Well, like they said, Rome was not built in a day.
Okay.
And we are not where we used to be like 10 years ago in the field of occupational health and safety. Compare now, 10 years ago, if you even tell anybody I'm a occupational health and safety professional, you'll be like, what do they do? So, we are moving forward.
Okay.
And we are hoping that we'll continue to get better. Yes, we have some of those, the framework legislation here and there, but it's better now than what you used to have. The awareness is increasing and it's going to continue. But if we can have, you know, everything rises and fall. If you're trying to bring a change, it rises and fall on policy.
Leadership.
Policy formulation. So if you have stringent policy from government backing this up, is going to make the awareness even to be more than this, and it's going to enforce compliance.
For instance, it's only Lagos State that has a safety commission.
Yes, you're very correct. I'm sure that
I know there are a few states that still have they still have something similar to that. And for those who don't have, I think the Ministry of Labor also have there is a department.
But we can do better.
Yes, we can do better to have specific organizations whose core job, just as Lagos State Safety Commission is to look out for these things, to focus on occupational health and safety within the state. And also, I know you remember we have a lot of the informal sector. So even when we have this report, most of these reports are more of the formal sector. So we can do better in the informal sector to raise the awareness and begin to see how we can get figures from the informal sector so that we can know what is happening.
How would you rate the Lagos State Safety Commission? Are they doing well in creating awareness, sensitizing the public on the importance of workplace safety? I
think they are doing well in terms of the awareness. The awareness. There hardly any organization you go to, first thing you will see is the muster points. You will find in fact, even in new construction of buildings too, you will see their presence, you will see their boards, you will see their signages. You would also inquire that their inspectors come from time to time to ensure that certain things are done. So the awareness is very much in Lagos, unlike other states, and they are doing well. We just need to replicate it and then extend beyond the awareness to enforcement and other things that need to do. But the awareness is there in Lagos State.
In wrapping up, this discussion, let's just take it on a general scale, because I know different jobs have different, peculiar workplace safety measures and all. But what are you are the expert, so what are the basic workplace safety measures that organizations should have in place as we wrap up?
Okay, so basic workplace safety. First, it's starting with the workers. It starts with something as simple as being aware of your environment where you are. It's very critical. Be aware, know what the hazards are, know the direction, the exit, the ingress point,
where the fire extinguishers are.
Yes, all of those things. So basic awareness, it starts from that. Then training as well. Awareness, where you have humor, you can't assume you have said it once and that's all. It has to be a continuous thing. Continuously raise the awareness, train people where possible.
But for training, how do you know which training is appropriate at what time?
Okay, so that if an organization cannot do that, you can always get a consultant. You can work with a consultant to come look at your business. Yes, speak to the people. They will be able to help you to come up with some relevant training for your business or for your organization.
I think that's a fine place to leave it. You've really done justice. Okay, you want to say something?
And then lastly too, maintenance. We need to maintain workplace. Workplace has to be maintained. The facility has to be maintained. So just as she said, there has to be training, there has to be risk assessment, and then we have to maintain the workplace. If we put these three things together, then we should have a safe workplace. Yes.
Absolutely. This is a very interesting and instructive.
Very expository as well.
Yes, thank you so much for your time, Darlington Achua and Funke Sunday. Thank you for your time on iBrand Daybreak.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure.
All right, we've been speaking with safety professionals from Hybrid Group. That's, of course, Funke and Darlington. They've been enlightening us on the importance of workplace safety. Well, this is where we leave it. We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll delve into the money motivation segment. Don't go away.